Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It's going to be my first live that I'm doing on my personal account. And I think it's extra special because I know not everybody has a Dr. Bob in their lives. And I feel very blessed that I do. I'm going to be talking about something that last week I shared, and it was my experience with miscarriage. And when I opened up about it, I received so many messages of people that have gone through the same challenge and other people that have gone through and now have a beautiful, thriving family. And the conversation that I had with Dr. Bob before was for us to have these conversation around how the post miscarriage, how can you actually build yourself up through holistic practice to prepare your body for the pregnancy when it happens again. Happy, beautiful day, sir. Thank you so much for being here with us. I have some questions that I separated here because you see, I was just talking to you before our call here, just open up about how the idea of doing this call came along. And it was when I opened up about a struggle that I went through. And I think many women go through silently because there is a taboo, there's some sort of like fear that we feel. Because I remember when it happened to me, the feeling of guilt that I was feeling like, is there something that I've done wrong? It was something that I could have prevented somehow on my young years or whatever it was. And I remember talking to you, and I remember you helped me so much to like just alleviate the pressure of guilt that I was feeling. I would love to know from you, Dr. Bob, how common and what's your personal experience around your life of miscarriage stories as well?
Let's give you what the medical literature says. They say as much as 26% of all pregnancies end in miscarriage. So more than 1 in 4. But interestingly enough, only 10% of the time are people actually aware of it. So that means more often than not, people don't even know they're pregnant. The pregnancy starts, the pregnancy ends, and life goes on without the person, the mom, ever knowing. And so it's just way too common. But I happen to think that God doesn't make mistakes, nature doesn't make mistakes, and everything's always for a higher good. But here's the stats. If women are under 30, it's suggested that 1 in 10 pregnancies will end in a miscarriage. From 35 to 39 years old, it's going to be 2 in 10. And after the age of 45, yeah, some women can have babies after 45. I think the Guinness Book World Record is 60 years old, a 60-year-old mom. But 5 in 10 pregnancies after 45 will end in miscarriage. And then when we bring this close to home, my mother had a pregnancy after the age of 40. It was very surprising. She and my dad sat down with the family and said, guess what? You're all going to have another little brother or sister. And they were just so ecstatic and excited. And we were too. It certainly wasn't planned on their part. But then it was just a few weeks later, they said, no, that's not going to happen. So things happen. And then in my own home, Kelly and I, we have 3 beautiful children, 4 grandchildren, but both generations affected by miscarriage. Our second baby was a miscarriage between Jacob and Alexis, and my youngest daughter sadly miscarried. And I guess maybe as a doctor, as a dad, as a husband, as a father, even as a grandfather, I've experienced it on all 3 levels. Essentially losing a sibling before they were born, losing a child before they were born, losing a grandchild. And it's never easy, but if you have a little faith that things have a way of working out, that God doesn't make mistakes, then we take some solace in that.
Yeah, and it's comforting to know that, look at you, like you said, the 3 levels that you experience of miscarriage, and they end up all being very thriving families. And it's never to take away the pain that that loss happens to cause forever. I remember on my situation, my case, one of the reasons why I felt so like I shouldn't be talking so much, I shouldn't be putting so much pressure on how I felt about it, because it was a very short period of time. I found out that I was pregnant at 7:30 in the morning. My mom was here with my sister for Christmas. It was a beautiful experience that we would have because I could tell the story right there and then, the news. And it was beautiful. I have that in video as well. Never watched it back, but it's there. And by 1:30 in the afternoon, I started losing the baby. So I know that the first thing that I started thinking while I was in the hospital as well was like, what kind of lifestyle changes a woman has to go through? Because after you get a miscarriage, it's almost like a wake-up call about, okay, maybe something could be improved on my health to prevent this from happening in the future. So that was one of the things that was in my mind. And I would love to hear from you is what kind of lifestyle changes a woman should do and should consider doing after the first miscarriage to prepare the body.
First and foremost, perfectly healthy people miscarry all the time. And by the way, Kelly and I, it wasn't our first baby, and it was planned and it was diligent. So we were doing everything we needed to do. And let's just say we have above average knowledge of that, eating all organic, managing stress, drinking clean water, not intoxicating ourselves in any way, not overstressing, not overexercising. and yet it still happened. And then we could say the same thing for you and Eric. If we were to put a couple up on as a model, hey, this is the lifestyle you want to live, you would be it. It's not there now. I want to get to the conclusion or your question in a moment, but ultimately, very often it's either a problem with the chromosomes, and that was in our case. And so there was a double fertilization, 2 sperm fertilize the egg, and that's just a genetic mess. Whether it's that or any other thing, again, God doesn't make mistakes. Nature doesn't make mistakes. It says, okay, this is not the right time for that. But if there's a healthy mom and a healthy baby and there's going to be a healthy outcome, well, then things move in the right direction. And we've talked about the Magnificent Seven. You've got to eat right, drink right, think right, move right, sleep right, poop right, talk right. And we could literally go through all those, but now they actually know which diets are best for promoting health. And there's different food choices that make a difference. And then the other end of the spectrum, for instance, you certainly don't want to do too much alcohol. The jury's actually out on caffeine and coffee, interestingly enough. You know, when I looked at that decades ago, I realized that the data was if mothers drank more than 2 cups of coffee a day, there was a 2% risk of a low birth weight baby. So it wasn't even a high risk even at that. But now back to what can moms do? When moms eat the most fruit, they're 61% or less likely to have a miscarriage. With high vegetables, 41% less reduction. Interestingly enough, dairy products, 37% reduction in risk of miscarriage. And then finally, 19% for seafood and eggs. A pretty balanced, non-processed, natural diet is going to be the way to go. They often caution on overexercise, which is not a problem for a lot of the world. But let's say that someone was training for a triathlon. Yeah, that might not be a good idea. Or maybe even training for a female bodybuilding contest or fitness show. We know that females need a little more body fat to idealize their hormones and their estrogen. So, you know, if you know you're going to have a baby, eat really clean, eat a little extra, because when that baby's on board, about 500 extra calories is what they estimate you should get. And they should be really good calories.
Yeah. Yeah, no. And you know what? It's interesting. I didn't know like 500 grams, 500 extra when you're pregnant. That's good to know. And like you did the list, like about the fruits, the vegetables, the seafood and eggs, and it's all things that we eat a lot. The only thing that we don't eat a lot is cheese and dairy, because I don't deal well. Like I get loads of, my skin doesn't react very well. It's like I eat cheese, guarantee in a few days I'm going to have a big spot on my face somewhere. It's like, it's just me. And I know Eric put to the test, like, babe, just stop eating dairy for you to see if your skin is going to get better. And it did. So I keep to a minimum, but vegetable, fruits, good quality eggs and meat and everything that we do, is we spend more to have quality because we know that we invest in our health now. So we don't have to spend your illness later, like Eric loves to say. And I think that's very important. So if I do all of that, and I have done that, this transformation of my diet over the time that I've been with Eric, where before many people know about my previous problem with eating disorder. There were like 10 years of eating disorder that I didn't do good choices when it comes to food habits and this kind of stuff. And maybe there was a price. I don't know. I don't know the reason why I had the miscarriage.
Isa, I'm going to actually throw out a counter argument. Now, I certainly don't want to encourage any level of eating disorder. And we know that it's generally triggered by societal pressure. But in a calorie restricted state, women actually extend their fertility window. So the number one thing that we're all here to do biologically, and that is to reproduce. And so when they put animals in a calorie restricted state, their fertility window can as much as double. So they can have babies later. Let's take the other side of that. Obesity is the enemy of fertility. And for every point that body mass index goes up, fertility goes down. And so we want to have the right body composition, and why not the right part of everything during life? Set your mind at ease. It wasn't something that you dealt with a decade ago that set up this challenge. And oddly enough, it might even make you more fertile longer, even though we're not suggesting that as the option.
No, absolutely not. But I understand where you're coming from. And it does take a big weight off my shoulders, because that's something that I was still brewing. But when we say about food, and like I say, like how much Eric has taught me and has motivated me to eat better, to eat real food, to not fear food, to eat whatever you want, just have a balanced life of like exercise and keep active and that kind of stuff. And it has done so much for my mental health as well. It's like there's no comparison than being healthy, having healthy habits, and having some extra food and extra supplements as well into my diet that I consume every day for many years right now. And I want to get into that actually. Like, what are the foods and supplements that you would recommend to a woman to have to support fertility?
Now we have a little controversy in the literature. They have a really hard time promoting almost anything with the exception of maybe some folic acid and some omega-3s. But here's what we know. Babies certainly are going to be the priority over you. And I'll tell a study, they put rats, pregnant rats, on an omega-3 deficient diet, and the mother's brain actually shrunk in size more than 20% in a single reproductive cycle. Now, there were several conclusions from that article. One, we need to have omega-3s, good omega-3s for a good baby's brain. But baby takes priority over mom, period, end of story. So if you're not getting it in your diet, that baby's going to take it from you. And if you don't have it to give, then you both might be in trouble. So it's a very nice insurance policy to do a very broad-based, good multivitamin, multimineral. You help me with some great graphic arts share my nutrition pyramid. The base is food. If God made it, it's okay. If man made it, stay away. And from our studies now, lots of fruits and vegetables, whole grains. And if you like dairy and do well with it, fine. If you don't, and seafood has some benefits there too. But then we go with superfoods. And we're both in love with Ganoderma lucidum. My 4 granddaughters, Ganoderma was on board, also known as reishi, from conception forward. And I'll say that both my daughter and daughter-in-law, 4 really wonderful pregnancies, easy deliveries. And of course, we all think our grandchildren are special. And mine are. They're healthy, balanced, amazing. So we'll go with that. Then we go to functional foods. And could you apply functional foods to pregnancy? You could, because part of the deal is they have to have purity. If somebody's going to claim a health benefit, first you want to do no harm. So a good quality protein. If a woman has blood sugar issues, listen, that might be a good functional food for blood sugar, might be a good thing to take. And prior to conception, I often recommend that people go through a detox because they may not realize that a lot of the infertility that we're seeing or fetal challenges are due to the toxins in our environment. So I don't have any challenge, first of all, pre-pregnancy, putting women on a good detox. But I'll tell a story. I have a woman. Now we've been through a lot together, but I put her on a really good detox because she had a health challenge. And during that, interestingly enough, apparently she got pregnant. That's about how the timing worked out. And after we did the intense detox phase, she says, Dr. Bob, can I continue with this? I said, of course you can. It's all good for you and it's all safe. Then 2 months down the road, she goes, Dr. Bob, you're not going to believe this. I said, what wouldn't I believe? She says, I'm pregnant. I said, why wouldn't I believe that? She said, I've been detoxing. I said, good for you and good for baby. And that was her question. She said, look, with my other children, I had morning sickness. With this pregnancy, I didn't even know I was pregnant. I missed the period. I thought, okay, I'm not going to miss 2. Let's take a test. She didn't have any of the things that she experienced in her body that would have tipped her off in an unfriendly way. No fatigue, no morning sickness, just a very smooth pregnancy because her body had what it needed to not only nourish itself, but to cleanse itself. So I'm a big fan.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? You just gave me the beginning for my next question because it's exactly about that. Something that I had no idea about the damage, about the exposure that we are being presented every single day, and about the impact that it has in our health. So much more even for pregnant women, and that is toxicity. And I have here a question. Can you provide a guidance on reducing exposure to toxin and supporting detoxification for a healthy pregnancy? I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, of course, everything counts, right? And so when we start looking at all these chemicals that have been released in the environment, a new term came up 20-something years ago called obesogens. So they're actually slowing maternal metabolism. And again, obesity is the enemy of fertility. Then they also have what they call endocrine disrupting chemicals. And by the way, many of these are estrogens and different effects on males and females. But we realize that the global birth rate of males has gone down in many countries for 70 years and globally for 50 years. And then when they start looking at the actual anatomy, they're beginning to realize that males don't develop ideally when they're exposed to these high levels of estrogen. So if they don't miscarry, and by the way, they found that too, if a male is exposed to too many estrogens in utero, xenoestrogens, foreign estrogens, things that are toxic, then that is a common cause of spontaneous miscarriage. And so ultimately, we want to be very diligent for air, food, and water. We have a filtration system at home for water and air. We make sure our food is all organic. It's best to even know the farmer, and certainly don't do anything with genetically modified things, because if you were to conceive a baby, they know that glyphosate, which is also known as Roundup, is called an exponential multiplier of autism. So very careful. So as clean as possible with everything: food, water, supplements, even thoughts.
Yeah, it's so true. Like I didn't know, and for people that maybe think like, what is Roundup? I know it's very popular in America for gardening, and I don't know in Brazil if that has a different name. I know I have a few people watching here that are in Brazil, but it's basically something that you put around your garden to prevent. I think it's prevent pests. That's what it is, like something like that. I honestly don't know very much. I just know that it's extremely dangerous, and in many places are actually banned to be used because it can really be harmful for your pets and for yourself and everything else. So that is definitely something that we have to be aware, and we have to be a little bit obsessed, if that is the case, about us thinking that it's just like a glass of water from the tap. It's just a little bit of fluoride. That's what I say to people sometimes. I see so many people drinking straight from the tap. I know that different places have places that they have like different quality of water when it comes to filtration. But mostly, let's be very honest, guys, most of them are infused with a lot of things that we don't need in our body just for the sake of it. And one of them is fluoride, right, Dr. Bob? Does fluoride has an impact, direct impact with the pregnancy of a woman, or lack of? I don't know.
Well, you know what? I didn't look that one up directly. First and foremost, fluoride is definitely implicated in hypothyroidism. So if we have any biochemical nerds here, and I don't know if we do or don't, but fluorides, chlorides, bromides, and iodine are all in the same column of the periodic table, in the column called halogens. And fluoride can preferentially bind to the thyroid hormone as opposed to iodine and create hypothyroid. And there's plenty of fertility clinics that have a very tight range of thyroid that they want balanced for conception. And here in the States, they often measure something called thyroid stimulating hormone, and they have a guideline. If it's 0.045 to 4.5, they say you're okay. But the fertility clinics, and by the way, I've lectured to them. I've lectured about infertility, about healthy moms, healthy babies. They like it 0.8 to 1.8. But thyroid is also critical, and fluoride can disrupt with that. And by the way, it's basically like rat poison. So it's not a good thing. So they put it as something to kill things in the water. And I gave up fluoridated water decades ago when I learned about it. And interestingly enough, even I don't like fluoride in my toothpaste. So we use fluoride free.
I use the OG toothpaste, the best.
I met a high-level dentist with 50 years experience just a week ago and shared with him the OG Smile. He says, "My gosh, this is amazing toothpaste." I said, "You know what? Your patients are going to love it, and you will too."
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important for us to talk about that, about the implication of these small little things that people just, oh, just because it's in the water, it must be good for me. Or they add this because of the cavities on the, that's what I heard anyway when I was growing up, is that like they add fluoride to the water to combat cavities in the, even if that was the truth, like back in 1920s, whenever people didn't have the hygienes that they have today, maybe, but still do it. It's not necessary. We know we don't have the system, the water system. We definitely wanted to invest on it. For now, we are drinking water, like a 5 liters water that we buy from just up the hills here in Portugal, where we live, near where we live. It's a 9.5 on pH of water. It's delicious. With our coffee, it tastes amazing. And one of the things that we do notice is like whenever we make our coffee, our reishi coffee, if you guys know, I'm obsessed with. Anytime we make our coffee with tap water, whenever happen to happen, like to say we are flying or we are going somewhere, we get the water from whatever, it tastes different. It really does. Like the coffee is still wonderful, but that water, it does change the taste. That could be a lot better, isn't it?
And by the way, no one should be drinking unfiltered water. It's easy enough to look up that literally they have traces of every single type of pharmaceutical in the water. And I'll share a weird study that came up years ago, and it's on our topic in some ways. They found out in areas where women took the most birth control pills, men had the most prostate cancer. And they literally traced it down to that very powerful estrogen, ethinyl estradiol, getting into the drinking water, men getting it and poisoning their prostate. But along the same lines, if it was a fertile young lady who got pregnant and then was exposed to that very strong estrogen, it could cause fetal problems.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how much of this is not being talked. or even if it is being talked, it's not spread wide enough for people to know how important it is to have someone like yourself, Dr. Bob, that have this knowledge of functional medicine, that have the knowledge of the food being the powerful medicine that it is, to make us aware of these small little things that we just don't think about it. Like I myself, like that's not my area of expertise, it's not something that I search about. But when I get to a conversation with you, it's just like mind-blowing information. Wow, we are so misinformed. And one of the things that I see that is a very common topic, we talk about it many times in different topics of health challenges, it's stress and how stress can really impact your overall health. And in this case, in particular with miscarriage, how does stress affect a woman's fertility?
One of the common quotes that I really not like for what it actually means, but how it actually tells the story. We're either making stress hormones or sex hormones, not both. So in a very high stress state, that can impair ovulation, that can decrease sperm count, it can certainly affect both genders. But understand that moms are actually preparing baby for the world that the baby's going to be born in. So if mom's under high stress, that baby's prone to anxiety and other issues like that because it's just been bathed in too many stress hormones. Now, the placenta is amazing and it will protect baby to a high degree, but not to a perfect degree. So they actually estimate that about 10% of mom's stress hormones will cross the placenta and get to baby. And if there's a little, that's going to be a resilient baby. If it's too much, that baby's going to think they're always under attack. And we just call that anxiety. And that's proven in both animal and human studies now.
Oh, wow. Do you think that the growth that we have on the anxiety goes up because people had their babies under stress?
That's absolutely proven. If you throw in all big four, what I call the deadly quartet, stress can do it, toxins can do it, not enough physical activity, but both the other side of the coin too. We don't have too many people that overexercise. And then very simply malnutrition. All those can trigger anxiety. And there's a great psychiatrist, Daniel Amen, who's now done over 200,000 brain scans. And he often will even tie in a head trauma to it. So everything that happens inside and a few things that happen on the outside can all create the life we're not looking for. But as we learn more with better choices, all these things can be better managed or even resolved than ever before.
So to finish the last question, I want to, because we have our main character of our calls, because we are passionate about what we have infused in every beverage that we recommend, that we drink daily. And we know the power that it can have for many health challenges. It provides many health benefits. And in specific about miscarriage and about preparing your body for pregnancy, I would love to hear from you, Dr. Bob, why reishi it's so important to be added to anyone's diet or routine in order for a healthy pregnancy or to prepare to.
Certainly nutrition matters. So it's the top superfood on the planet, all the fabulous 50, all the vitamins, minerals, amino acids, proteins, carbohydrates, fat, fiber, and water in doses that make a difference to human health. But it can clear some of the things that are known to be disruptive to pregnancy. Yeah, we didn't talk about insulin resistance or prediabetes as a factor with obesity, but this actually helps insulin signaling, helps with fat loss, helps with satiety, helps to clear out the toxic estrogens, even those that are universal and known to disrupt potential fertility, like something called bisphenol A. It buffers the stress a lot of different ways. It'll actually lower the amount of circulating cortisol in the bloodstream. It puts the body in parasympathetic drive, which is the rest, digest, procreate, and incubate a healthy baby. You'll get better sleep with it, and better sleep certainly leads for a better life. And then you'll actually have more energy through the process. And as I mentioned with my daughter and daughter-in-law, they probably consume as much reishi as anybody I know, but zip zero, no issues at all with morning sickness, pregnancy challenges, and again, a beautiful, healthy baby on the other end. But now with that said, my daughter did have a miscarriage, one of them. She was consuming reishi at that time. So what was the probability? It wasn't meant to be, whether it was a chromosome problem, which is the most common thing, or sometimes a placenta problem. But either way, if it's a healthy mom, and you certainly are, then it's going to be something with the fertilization and implantation and ultimately recollect, add value to so many people. I actually can see from this, depending on how much it gets shared, people making better choices and having beautiful babies as a result. And we even have examples of people that started consuming reishi that were told they'd never have a child. I think of Marta out of Hungary. She's pregnant now with her third, and she was told she'd never have any. So How
It's
beautiful.
beautiful. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And you know what? I'm going to keep sharing. I'm going to keep making content around, because I do know that with your expertise, I'm going to be inspired by content that I can create, because I don't need to be the expert. That's the beauty of this business that we do. That's the beauty of what we share, because I don't need to be the expert. I have someone in our team that is there to support us. And I'm very grateful, Dr. Bob, because you are taking time of your Saturday to be here with me, helping educate people to the possibility of a healthier and better lifestyle that can prepare them to have their babies and to build their beautiful, healthy family. So thank you so much. I would like to have you saying the last few words, and we definitely should be doing more lives in here, and I'm going to bring more people to do lives as well.
As you were sharing, it really came through my mind that one philosophy that I really enjoy is life happens for us, not to us. And even this circumstance, which can be very hard, it likely is for the higher good of you empowering and inspiring and leading the way. And I see this as your new calling. You will help so many ladies, whatever kind of life they want to lead, but especially those that want to be moms. And how
Yeah,
beautiful. So I'll just finish by saying I am beyond proud of you. I love you and Eric. We're essentially extended family.
absolutely, we
And
are.
let's share as much as we can.
Yeah, absolutely, Dr. Bob. And we're going to come back Tuesday. This Tuesday, we're going to come back on our other page, Ratio Warriors page. We are on a massive mission this year of reaching and helping the health and finance of 100,000 people. And Dr. Bob is going to be talking to us on Tuesday on the functional medicine approach to diabetes. So Tuesday, we're going to see you again, Dr. Bob. Thank you very much for giving your time. And thank you very much, guys, for being live with us or watching the replay.
Thank you always.
Thank you. Bye.